In the world of Formula One, few names are as iconic as Lewis Hamilton. But with just a few races left in the 2024 season, rumors are swirling that Hamilton might be looking to leave Mercedes earlier than expected. After a disappointing performance in Brazil and a series of tough moments with his car, the seven-time world champion seems to be losing his patience. And while this is certainly a big shock for fans and the team alike, it's not exactly a surprise that tensions are rising between him and Mercedes. The question on everyone's mind now is, will Hamilton part ways with Mercedes on bad terms? What's really going on behind the scenes? It all started with a race weekend that Hamilton himself described as a disaster. Despite the potential for a strong finish, the car simply didn't deliver the results he had hoped for. As his teammate George Russell took the lead early on, Hamilton fought to even stay competitive. He was battling with cars he would normally pass with ease, like the AlphaTauri of Lawson and the Aston Martin of Stroll. From the very beginning, Hamilton knew this weekend would be a challenge. His car was not performing like it should. After all, Hamilton is used to fighting at the front, not struggling to gain a single point. And yet, he wasn't shy about calling the car the worst I've ever driven. He went on to explain that the car felt like a plank of wood bouncing uncontrollably over the track and making it impossible to find any real grip. Every corner felt stiff, and every lap felt like a battle. And then came the statement that shocked everyone: if this is the last time I race for Mercedes, it's a shame it had to be like this. For many, that was the moment they realized Hamilton might truly be at the end of his road with the Silver Arrows. As the team worked hard to understand the issues behind his car's poor performance, it seemed like Hamilton had already made up his mind about his future. As the weekend progressed, Hamilton's frustration became more apparent. In a moment of candid honesty, he revealed his true feelings about the car he was being asked to drive. It wasn't just the poor performance that bothered him, it was the feeling that the team had left him with a machine that didn't match his expectations or his standards. In fact, he even made a rather telling remark about how he'd rather be driving the MP44, a car from the early years of his career, than the W15 that he was currently stuck with. While it might have sounded disrespectful to some, it was the truth. From Hamilton's perspective, he wasn't happy with the car, and it wasn't delivering what he needed to compete at the highest level. But it wasn't just about the car. Hamilton's comments pointed to a larger issue: the lack of consistency in Mercedes' approach. The car seemed to change its behavior from race to race, and Hamilton was clearly frustrated with the unpredictability. Even his teammate George Russell, who was also struggling with the car, was facing similar issues. But for Hamilton, it wasn't just about the car, it was about the bigger picture: the team's overall performance, their future direction, and his place within it. The entire weekend had been a reflection of how far things had fallen since the glory days of Mercedes' dominance. Hamilton, once the driver at the front of every race, was now fighting for scraps. He wasn't used to this. Mercedes, once the team he could rely on to provide him with the best chance to win, seemed to be struggling with their own identity. And this situation was only made worse by the increasing talk about his future, with whispers of a potential move to Ferrari. In a radio message after the race, Hamilton hinted that this might be the end of his journey with Mercedes, at least for now. "If this is the last time I get to race for this team," he said, "it's a shame it ended like this, but I'm grateful for the effort." Those words carried a heavy weight. Hamilton had been with Mercedes for so long, and yet here he was, unsure about his future with the team. It wasn't the conclusion he had imagined when he first joined Mercedes back in 2013, but the reality of the situation seemed undeniable. As the race weekend ended, the tensions between Hamilton and Mercedes only seemed to escalate. His cryptic message over the radio wasn't the only sign that things were far from smooth between the two sides. In fact, the team's response to his comments revealed just how seriously they were taking the possibility of Hamilton leaving. Mercedes wasn't ready to let go of their star driver without a fight. They knew Hamilton's value, not just as a champion, but also as a crucial part of the team's identity. However, with Hamilton's frustration growing, there was only so much they could do to change his mind. While Hamilton might have hinted at an early departure, Mercedes had other plans. They confirmed that he would remain with them for the final 3 races of the season, despite the ongoing issues with the car. The team wasn't ready to shake things up just yet, and they knew how important it was to have Hamilton on board, even if he wasn't entirely satisfied with the current situation. But the bigger question was, what would happen after the 2024 season? Looking ahead, Mercedes was already positioning themselves for the future. They had their eyes on George Russell as the long-term leader of the team, And with young talent like Antonelli coming through the ranks, they seem to be shifting their focus towards a new era. This left Hamilton in an awkward spot. He was still part of the team, but the writing seemed to be on the wall. Mercedes was moving forward, and Hamilton's future with them seemed uncertain. In the midst of all this, Johnny Herbert, a former Formula One driver and current Sky F1 pundit, shared his thoughts on the situation. Herbert pointed out the unpredictable nature of the car, how Hamilton would show flashes of brilliance, only to have the performance disappear later in the race. "It's confusing," he said. "One moment, he shows his raw speed, and the next, it's like the car has a mind of its own." Herbert's comments highlighted just how difficult it had been for Hamilton to find consistency this season, and it was clear that the issues with the car were more than just technical, they were psychological as well. Mercedes had always prided themselves on being a team that could adapt and evolve, but now it seemed like they were struggling to keep up with the competition. And, with the future of their team in question, it was becoming more apparent that Hamilton's departure could be inevitable. The question was no longer if Hamilton would leave, but when. As the whispers of Hamilton's departure from Mercedes grew louder, the team was forced to confront the possibility of losing one of their most valuable assets. Toto Wolff, Mercedes team principal, had always been a strong supporter of Hamilton. Yet even he couldn't escape the reality that Hamilton's time at the team might be coming to an end. Wolff had always known that the contract they signed with Hamilton, a one-year deal with an option for 2025, was a short-term solution. It was designed to keep him with Mercedes for one more year, but it also left the door open for Hamilton to leave at the end of the season. In a recent interview, Wolff acknowledged the situation with a certain level of resignation. "We knew signing him to a short-term contract meant we'd only have him for 2024, Wolff said. But we also knew it could benefit both sides." The reality, however, was far more complicated than Wolff had anticipated. The team had hoped that the extension would buy them time to sort out their performance issues, but instead they found themselves at a crossroads. Wolff admitted that he felt a sense of betrayal when Hamilton announced his intention to leave. By the time Hamilton made his decision public, drivers like Norris and Leclerc had already signed their extensions. "We had no choice but to turn to Kimi Antonelli, who is still finding his feet in Formula 2, he explained. The decision to promote Antonelli to the Mercedes seat in 2025 seemed like a bold move, especially given that the young driver had yet to complete a full season in Formula 2. But Wolff seemed confident in his choice, comparing it to Red Bull's decision to bring in Max Verstappen when he was still a relative unknown. "I believe Kimi will be the next champion of Mercedes," Wolff said, echoing the team's belief that Antonelli has what it takes to lead the team into the future. But with Hamilton potentially leaving, the question remained, could Mercedes build a winning team around George Russell, who would likely be the team's #1 driver from 2025 onwards? The team had always spoken highly of Russell, but now they were facing the challenge of transitioning from a 7-time world champion to a younger, less experienced driver. It was a huge gamble, and only time would tell if Mercedes could continue to compete at the highest level without Hamilton at the helm. As the season draws to a close, it's clear that Hamilton's relationship with Mercedes is nearing its end. The uncertainty around his future with the team has left many wondering how the two sides will part ways. Will it be on good terms, or will the frustrations and disappointments of 2024 leave a bitter taste in everyone's mouth? It's hard to say for sure, but one thing is certain: Hamilton's legacy at Mercedes is secure. His 7 world championships, countless race wins, and undeniable talent will always be a part of the team's history. However, the future is a different story. With the new 2026 regulations on the horizon, Mercedes is looking to the next generation of drivers, and they're betting on George Russell and the promising young talents like Antonelli to carry the team forward. It's a transition that's already begun, but it won't be easy. Russell has shown flashes of brilliance, but he has yet to prove he can consistently lead a team to victory in the same way Hamilton has done for so many years. There's a lot of pressure on him, and the next few seasons will be critical for Mercedes as they attempt to rebuild their title-winning car. And then there's Hamilton. While his future with Mercedes is unclear, one thing remains: his desire to win, his passion for racing, and his competitive spirit are as strong as ever. If he does leave Mercedes, he'll be joining a new team with one goal in mind: to fight for another world title, no matter the challenge. Ferrari has been mentioned as a potential destination, and while it might seem like a step into the unknown, it could also be the fresh start Hamilton needs to prove that he's still capable of winning at the highest level. Only time will tell how things will unfold for both Hamilton and Mercedes. The team is at a turning point, and they'll need to decide whether to build around Russell or go all in on their future with younger drivers like Antonelli. Hamilton's departure, whenever it happens, will mark the end of an era at Mercedes, but it could also be the beginning of a new chapter both for the team and for Hamilton himself. So what do you think? Should Hamilton leave Mercedes sooner rather than later? And will Mercedes be able to make the transition from their star driver to the next generation of talent? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're interested in the latest drama surrounding Aston Martin and Lance Stroll, check out the video on your screen now.